Welcome to The Homeless Conservative. I'm your host, Blake Fisher. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to talk to my friend Kelley again because we have not had a political conversation since the last time, and we thought with the new Trump indictments, it was a good excuse to get on the microphones and talk about it again. We talk about the new indictment. We talk about kind of all the Trump indictments and the DOJ and Hunter Biden stuff and Joe Biden's fitness for office and the problem with primaries and the Ukraine war. Lots of topics covered in this one briefly, and so I think you'll enjoy it. Sorry it's a little long. Try to edit a little bit for clarity. By the way, also, just in case you're not aware, if you're listening to this on podcast or just listening to this, what I do on the video versions on YouTube and on Spotify is I'll fact check myself. So if I rattle off a stat, I'll generally go back and actually look up the real stat and either say, yeah, I was right about this and give you some more context to it, or we'll just throw that on a little graphic across the bottom of the screen. So it is helpful if you ever want to fact check the stats. I'll also put those in the show notes, though, in case you need them. Just like to be honest when I'm wrong about stats, which I am in this episode a couple times about some specific budget numbers and stuff. But in general, that's what we'll do. So you can also, if you want to discuss this, I've kind of found the best place to do this is on YouTube. They just kind of have a good comment section back and forth and stuff. There's not really something like that on Spotify or the other podcast platforms. So if you want to chime in, give me your 2 cents. YouTube is a great place to do that, which is just at The Homeless Conservative. And even if you listen on something else, you want to chime in, that's just a good place where we're kind of having conversations with people, and especially on shorts, but want to start doing it on these long episodes as well. So check that out. Here is my conversation with Kelley. Kelley, thanks for coming on again.
Of course, Blake. Thanks for having me.
Apparently, you're the only person that wants to be on this podcast. So no, that's not really true.
I just love talking to you about it, and if it needs to be a public thing, then we can do it.
That's fine. Yeah. That works.
Mainly because you're a really good source of information for me.
Well, it's been a week of information.
Yeah. And because the last time we spoke about Trump's indictments, and
we've got more now.
We got another one.
So yeah, it felt like a good reason to have you back. So we got another one. We're on number 3 now of potentially 4.
Yep.
Well, 4 different cases, I guess. There's multiple indictments.
Yeah.
Or multiple charges within
4
each
different
indictments.
instances.
Yeah, 4 different things.
Yeah.
That we think things are coming down. You've been a little busy. Kelley's planning her wedding, so she's paying less attention to the news right now, probably than normal, which is probably fine. I don't think that you're missing much. It's August.
I feel like I get the big things.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you know now? What have you heard, or is this just turning into fatigue of Trump indictments for you? I mean,
more fatigue of Trump indictments and more fatigue of Hunter Biden.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of that
There's
going on,
a lot
too.
of that. I want to talk about I do want to know what the most recent situation of the indictments was about.
Okay, so Trump got another set of indictments. These one's federal, so this is the second federal.
And that's a big deal.
Well, it's just, it's the federal government versus, it's a bigger deal because the Department of Justice is ran by Joe Biden, technically.
Correct.
And it's a weird situation, no matter how you slice it, that the Department of Justice, which is led by the President of the United States, and they're indicting a former president who is currently the front runner, if you look at polls, of the Republican primary. So it would be, the Department of Justice is indicting the opponent of Joe Biden.
Yeah, but they probably love that.
Well, I don't know.
Wouldn't that be like their dream situation to get to take down their number one opponent?
Right, but a lot of people will think that's problematic because if you can weaponize, which is kind of the buzzword probably now if you can do that to any political opponent. Now, it gets complicated because really Trump did. So the first set of indictments, which we talked about last time, was the Mar-a-Lago documents and the classified stuff in the files. That's the most no-brainer thing. Yeah, you have to charge him on that because it's like he repeatedly didn't cooperate. They tried to do it.
Yeah.
Just, hey, give us the documents. He refused. So that's a more, to me, clear-cut, hey, Trump did this to himself. They're not trying to weaponize anything. He didn't give the documents back.
Yeah.
If he just would have given them back,
it's kind of like
none of this would have been a problem. We never would have found out about it, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we would have, but that was going on for a year. that they were trying to get the documents back from him for a whole year before anything, the raid or any of that kind of stuff happens. Okay. So, well, it's actually like a year and a half, I guess, because he left.
They kept asking him for him.
Kept asking him. Yeah. And so, the first we hear about it is like right around the raid or whatever, the so-called raid or the search warrant kind of thing, which is like July or August of last year or something. So they've been trying to get the documents for a long time. So if that's weaponization, it's not very good weaponization, because Trump did everything they would have wanted him to if they were trying to indict him for something. He went along like perfectly by not going along with what they were requesting him to have. So that to me seems totally fair. I think the New York one, like we talked about last time, is bogus. So I don't think that is a good indictment. And the second one, I think, is kind of in between those two, because now he's being charged with essentially like, this is all related to the January 6th stuff. So this is all like conspiracy to defraud the United States government. I've got the charges written down. I should probably pull them off. I'm gonna pull them up on my phone. But the problem with all the charges is that they all relate to lying about the fraud, the alleged fraud in the 2020 election. That obviously after he loses in November, for those next couple months, he talks about, the stolen election and how all this stuff.
Wait, I thought this was all about January 6th.
It is, yes, but not entirely. Some of it is about the lead up to January 6th too, because a lot of it is about how they tried to basically, here's the shortest version of what happened. They're charging him with, most of them are conspiracy things, which means you did it with someone else. Just means that more than one person is involved
collaborated.
In it. But they are not charging any of the other conspirators right now. The other people not named, but they're called like co-conspirator number 1 and 2. But it's like Rudy Giuliani, and it's the normal cast of characters. I think there's only one that they don't know for sure who it is, but they're not currently charging any of those people. Most people think that's because they want it to be speedy, and it obviously gets a lot more complicated if you have like 6 people being charged than one person being charged and stuff. So I think the problem though is that everything I read a lot. I like to read lawyers' takes on stuff specifically, just because they know the law, and that does matter here, because if you don't pay attention to the law and you just listen to people, you pull up your average like CNN article right now, or pick it. I'm not picking on CNN, pick any of them. And it's like kind of garbage, because for the most part, they don't really get into the actual legal definitions of what this stuff is. And the problem with all of it is that my reading of lawyers saying this is like, they're going to have to prove that he knew he didn't lose the election.
Say that again?
They're going to have to prove that Trump knew he was lying, because
they won't be able to do that.
Right.
Don't you think he actually thought that he won?
I don't know. I really don't.
You can't really prove that he...
Right. That's the problem. Unless they've got a smoking gun of some sort of thing, but there was nothing in the indictment other than a couple of quotes of him saying like, "Can you believe we lost to this guy?" Talking about Joe Biden. Or at one point he called Sidney Powell, who was one of the crazy people. Her ideas were crazy. But that doesn't mean you didn't think one of her ideas was not crazy. And I don't think anyone, and they've got all this evidence of people telling him that the election wasn't stolen from him, but then he chose not to believe those people. So I don't know. I really think he might have believed it, or he might have been lying enough, and you start believing your own lies.
Yeah.
I mean, but
they'll never be able to prove that.
That's the problem, is that I don't think, like I said, I've read a lot of smart people go like, that's going to be really hard to prove unless they've got something that they didn't put in the indictment. They've got some evidence. Do you think
they really believe that he was like conspiring for something, or do you just think they're out to get him?
I think there's a lot that was wrong about this. I think that there are... Okay, let's go like both sides. Because I think that one thing I've seen is that, okay, well, this is just Biden weaponizing the DOJ to go after the only person that can beat him.
Are they also the ones that are supposed to be going after his son?
Right. And so if you're on Trump's side right now, here's the arguments I see against the DOJ right now. One is that
the timing is always
ironic. You've taken 7 years to figure out if you should charge Hunter with something, which it was super clear cut. Like, everyone knows you have to pay your taxes
Yeah.
or you go to jail. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and none of like, or you can't lie on a form about being a drug addict and try to purchase a weapon. Like, these are very clear cut things that every American understands, right?
Yeah.
Everyone understands about the law is that these are things you can't do. And Hunter did them, and they've taken forever to and then they give him like this pretty sweetheart deal.
Yeah, the plea deal.
Which is falling through now.
Yeah.
Because a judge was like, hold on, you can't, like, this doesn't work.
It's kind of a boss move.
Well, it was, again, have to rely on smarter people than me as far as the law goes. But they were like, the judge basically was like, I can't enforce this later. The way this is written, it sounds like I can't make a decision later because I wasn't the judge that said, anyway, it was like, it's all like legal stuff. So they said, we can't go into this. The judge was like, I'm not comfortable taking this plea because I can't, the way it's written is not clear enough, which is what the law is supposed to do. The whole point of writing these things down is to make it clear so that we can reference it again and go, this is what we're supposed to do. So yeah, it was good for the judge to be like, no, we can't do this plea deal. They're still working on it, I think, but they've said we can't like accept this as it is right now. So anyway, it took forever for the DOJ to like figure out to charge Hunter with anything. Meanwhile, there's really no new evidence that we've found. Honestly, we knew all of this stuff that's in the indictment about like this new one with Trump.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Right.
And not even a year ago, Merrick Garland was like, everything seemed to signal they were not going to pursue January 6 charges for Trump. And I think it's because at the time they knew what I was just saying was that like, you're going to have to prove his state of mind.
Like, why now?
And well, and that's what people think is that people on the right, I think it's fair to say that what it looks like is that, oh, well, now he's running for president. Before he announced he was running for president, they weren't interested in pursuing the January 6 charges. Then he announces, and he's in the lead in the polls. Yeah. So now it would be, and like, there's no way.
Who gets to decide whether or not they like take something to like the indictment level?
Well, I mean, technically it would go as high as Merrick Garland, who's in charge of the Department of Justice.
Can anyone bring those things up? Like, actually, I do think that we should.
Well, in this situation, it was like Merrick Garland appointing Jack Smith as the guy that did all this investigation of both of the documents and the January 6 stuff. They sort of overlap in some ways, and so you kind of have like, there's a lot of overlap. But, as of a while, like before Trump announced he was running, they were kind of like clear about like, we're not pursuing anything on the January 6 stuff. This is all about the classified documents. And then they changed their tune. They could have brought these charges, I mean, in 2021, probably. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's unrealistic. We really don't know much more. I don't feel like we know a lot more now than we did 2 years ago.
So the right is saying, oh, well, this is just now convenient for you guys to bring this back up.
Right.
Because he is leading in the polls.
And because there's basically no way this doesn't, like, cause a nightmare scenario.
But do you think they indict someone knowing that they're not going to win?
Well,
or do you think it's just to distract?
I don't think they would bring. I hope that they wouldn't bring charges they didn't think they could win, because I think that's foolish. I don't think
but
any prosecution should ever do that.
Politicians and stuff is
foolishness. But here's the thing: he's gotten a bump with every indictment in the polls. So it's not a very good. I mean, some people think that the Democrats want him to be the nominee because they think they can beat him. I think that's playing with fire. I think if there's any of that motivation in there, I mean, I think the Department of Justice has done a pretty piss poor job over the last several decades, honestly, like as a whole. I think it needs an overhaul. This isn't like a red versus blue thing. This is like there's a lot of stuff that's just not, like, the FBI is not draped themselves in a lot of glory lately. They've had a lot of missteps and some really bad stuff, especially pertaining to Trump.
What government agency are you like they are doing their job well?
It's probably one I don't know the name of for sure. I mean, it's small, like it would, like, the Department of Energy, whatever part that, not the whole department, but the part that's like doing the investigative stuff on like how COVID leaked, maybe. Ooh. But that's probably like 12 people or something.
Okay.
Who are smarter than everyone else in the government.
We also need to I want your take on the UFO stuff at some point.
Okay, yeah, we could definitely talk about that. Yeah, so I mean, that's the problem is that you're right. The right is saying, well, that's awfully convenient. This
Yeah,
seems
for sure.
political.
I mean, anybody could look at that and see.
And you cannot escape the fact that Joe Biden's Justice Department is charging who is at this point, it would look like they would be in a race together to be his opponent.
Yeah.
And that is...
And are they also the group... The Justice Department is also who's supposed to be dealing with all the Hunter stuff.
Right.
So do you think there's any of that that's like they're doing this at the same time to like cover up or to like distract people
I don't
from
think
Hunter?
It's a distract thing. I mean, if it is, it's not working very well. It would be a pretty poor strategy. I don't think it's to distract.
I have seen people on the right that have been like, "Oh, this is awfully convenient timing." Like every time there's a Hunter thing, like the next day there's a new Trump story with like a legal situation.
But Hunter's kind of in the same situation. Like we keep hearing stuff about Hunter that either ends up not being true or they can't get the witness to actually like say it in Congress because
like his former
they're in
business
jail.
partner.
Yeah, I mean, and there are Republicans in Congress that are really inflating the Hunter stuff more than I think that.
Yeah, you're like, he's not the president.
I'm not saying it's not worth investigating and stuff. His gun charge is something that never happens. I'm not saying it's not illegal. It is by the letter of the law. That charge never, ever happens. It just doesn't happen that someone's like, oh, we found this guy that does do drugs and he lied on the form and so we arrested him. Like it just doesn't, it almost never happens. It's ridiculous. I think it should, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
So some of the Hunter stuff, honestly, if his name was not Biden, he would not be getting charged with these things.
Yeah, for sure.
On the other hand, he wouldn't not be like some of the other charges are like, yeah, you would have gotten in trouble for the tax stuff a long time ago if your last name wasn't Biden. I think it's pretty clear that Joe Biden has been lying about what he knew about what Hunter Biden was doing. Because at first it was, I never knew anything. I've never been involved with anything. Now it's like, it looks pretty likely that he was around and took phone calls with people.
The big guy.
So either...
Or what did they call him? The big guy?
The big guy, I think is what it was. So it's like, he at least knew that his son was...
acting
peddling
shady.
influence by using or pretending that he was going to be able to influence his father by taking money from, these people that are basically the Chinese government, some of them. So I think Joe Biden's been lying about it. I think he should. I think the Biden family making money off of the name and him being vice president, now president, I think is gross. Most of it's not illegal though.
Yeah, just maybe immoral.
That's the other thing. It's definitely immoral. I think it's impeachable. I think it's all sorts of other things, and that's kind of goes with all this Trump stuff too.
Yeah,
I think it's all super impeachable. You should have gotten rid of him when you could have in 2021. They should have impeached him for dereliction of duty on January 21st.
Yeah,
or January 7th or whatever.
Wait, who?
Trump.
Trump.
Congress should have. They did bring up articles of impeachment, but it was about insurrection.
Yes,
which I think was too far to go. I don't think that impeachment is not a court of law. It is not. Everyone thinks it is. It's not. Congress can impeach someone for being ugly if they want to. It's their prerogative in the Constitution to do it.
What is like the actual definition of impeachment?
Well, that just means that Congress says, "Hey, we want to recall you from office," and if the House
has it ever gone through?
No one's ever been removed from office.
Yep.
People have been impeached, but no one's ever been convicted in the Senate and removed. Nixon probably would have been, except that he resigned before. Yeah. So like,
but there's no like template to what someone can get impeached for.
No, it's high crimes or misdemeanors.
Okay.
It means.
But didn't they try and impeach Clinton? I think we talked about this last time for the stuff with Monica Lewinsky.
Right, but specifically because he lied under oath about not having a relationship with her. Not that he did it. No, okay. But that's the problem, is that everyone has turned impeachment into, it's got to be something you did illegal. It doesn't have to be. By the letter of the law of the Constitution.
Then why would anyone impeach anyone if it wasn't illegal?
Well, because you just don't think they're fit for office or whatever. Oh. Or because you... Yeah, I mean, it literally could be for any reason. Like
and you have to have a majority vote?
In the House of Representatives, it's just a straight majority. So if you've got a majority, you can get it done. Now,
wait, so could any member of the House say, I would like to
bring articles of impeachment
against Joe Biden?
That doesn't mean that the Speaker of the House is going to take it up for a vote. Like
Okay.
someone tried to recently for Joe Biden, like one of those idiots, like
Marjorie.
Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene or someone, one of those morons that
Yes.
are in. And I don't like to name call on here, but I have to name call. If you're a politician and you're that dumb or that performative, I hate those people.
Yeah, I feel like
Hate
Marjorie did it, but I could be wrong.
I think it was Lauren Boebert, but I could be wrong. But
Yeah.
anyway,
If someone that was just like
some idiot that no one should listen to ever.
so anyone can.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it got taken up and no
Okay.
one voted for it or anything like that. But I mean, it did. So Trump got impeached twice. The second time was for the January 6th stuff. I think Nancy Pelosi, if she would, if the goal is really to get him to not be able to ever run again and to remove him from office, I think it should have been dereliction of duty. He wouldn't stop the riot at the Capitol, even though he wouldn't call the National Guard. He wouldn't do any of that stuff. He just sat there and watched it on TV. I think I believe she could have gotten the votes in the Senate. 'Cause the Senate is not a simple majority. You've got to get 2/3 of. So
Why didn't they do it then?
Well, they did, but they only got like 8 Republicans to come over and vote against it. So it was like 58, and you got to get 66 votes or 67, I guess it is.
They just didn't.
And so they couldn't convict and remove. And the thing that goes along with that is you can't run for office again when you get removed like that. And so...
Wait, say that again?
So, I mean, the solution of impeachment is that you get removed from office and barred from running from office.
Oh.
So that's the solution to get rid of Trump. That was it. I mean, we had the chance in January of 2021, in my opinion, and we should have taken it seriously. But at the time, Republicans in the Senate were like, Mitch McConnell said specifically, it was like, well, if this doesn't...
Poor guy.
I'm not voting for this because, like I said, I am okay with Republicans at the time if they were like, I can't vote for this because I don't think he did this specific charge.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Now, I still would have been like, I don't freaking care. I don't care if we remove him for whatever. Like, he should never be able to run again. Get rid of him. He's an albatross around the party's neck. And they could have gotten rid of it. And they didn't. So now we're dealing with this criminal stuff. And what's funny is now some of the criminal people are like, well, you can take care of this with impeachment, not with criminal stuff. It's like they want it both ways. It's like now that there's criminal charges, they're like, no, this should be an impeachment thing. And when it was an impeachment thing, they're like, the criminal justice system should take care of this. It was like, they're just passing the buck is what they're kind of doing.
Because no one wants to handle it?
Yeah, no one wants to be the bad guy and anger his base. That's the problem, is that like...
But I feel like people love to anger his base.
People on the left love to anger his base, but
not
Republicans
his
don't
own
want to
party.
get primaried
Yeah.
and beat by some crazy Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Yeah.
Pickett, like one of those people. And they all did. All the Republicans that voted for impeachment in the House, they got
Eaten alive.
They got voted out their next election. They got primaried mostly in the next one and got beat in the Republican primaries. Those, I think it was 11 people. None of them are in Congress anymore, I don't think. So that sucks.
Wow.
But they did the right thing, in my opinion. But so that was our chance to get rid of them. And now I do not... the way I read it, and like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but I read some smart lawyers. Some people think, yeah, it weighs. I think the problem is there's a bunch of people that think Trump is... like, everything he did was morally awful.
Yeah.
It was terrible. I hate it. I think he shouldn't... I think he was lying. I think he was... He might have eventually bought into the lies and really believed that he lost that election because I think he's that narcissistic and he just only wants to hear what he wants to hear. But it doesn't, like, everything he did was terrible. I mean, and I wish he would go away forever. But I don't think that this is going to be the thing that does it because it's too flimsy. It's got.
Why do you think that his poll numbers keep getting higher with each indictment?
I mean,
like, what is it that you think that the people that were maybe on the fence were like, okay, now I'm pro him after this last indictment or the one before that or the one before that? Like, why is he getting stronger?
Most people don't pay any attention to the details. That's one problem. Most people just think it's like, well, the first indictment sounded like crap, and it was. So then the second one...
Like the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, it's going back to the boy who cried wolf. I think
Yeah.
the New York indictment is terrible and was a bad precedent of like a politician trying to do political stuff. And I think it's so clearly political that and I think it has made everyone since then worse. I really think the document charges are slam dunk.
Yeah.
It's like no brainer. He had them. He wasn't supposed to have them. He knew he wasn't supposed to have them. We've got all of that. And to me, that's slam dunk. And to me, yes, it's like it would be irresponsible to not charge someone with that.
When will that happen?
Well, I mean, we don't know. I mean, that's it.
But then they have to do it to Biden.
Well, no, but it's different. Like when Biden found that he had documents, they gave him back.
Yeah, he turned him in.
So it is different. Now, I mean, I do think Hillary Clinton's a good example of they should have prosecuted her for what she did.
This is dumb. Can you get indicted? No, never mind. Can you get indicted if you weren't? She never.
Oh, you mean like for like having classified documents and you're not supposed to? Yes, most people go to jail for a long time for doing any of the things that Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, or Donald Trump did. With
like that young kid that that hacked the system.
Like he's gonna go to jail. Lots of other people. Like if like an officer in the army took documents home, and then someone found they had those documents home, they go to jail. Like this is not. But it's very clear that we have a different tier of like the people that are at the top of government. We don't expect to follow the same rules as the people below them in government. I think it's the problem though is that we didn't charge Hillary Clinton. We should have.
Mm-hmm. So it like set a precedent.
And then so now people are like, well, you can't charge Trump for that. It's like okay, so we're just never going to charge anyone with classified document problems ever again because we made a mistake and didn't charge Hillary, so we can never charge anyone.
It is kind of hard. I mean, I see that.
But I think argument. That's bogus because there'd be no point in having the laws anymore.
Could they go back? Is it like past the statute of limitations with Hillary? Or could they go and just indict
it's not.
Could they go back and get them all?
No, I mean, I would love if Merrick Garland just threw everyone in jail. That'd be my favorite.
Hillary,
if you charged Joe and Trump and Hillary, just all of them. Just like I'm indicting everyone that's done this. That'd be great. That's not going to happen. But
what a story if they were all in jail together.
Well, I mean, and there's a whole complication with that too. It's like, can a former president go to jail? What does Secret Service do?
Right.
Like, how does this work? I mean, like, there's so many nightmare scenarios that people are playing out right now because they're like, okay, let's say this trial is first. And
which trial?
Let's say it's this one because some people think it could be the fastest one. It could beat the other one because the other one has.
Do you think they'll try and plan them during election season?
Well,
I mean, we're kind of already almost on election season.
We are. I mean, we're in it at this point. I mean, especially the first Republican debate is this month in August, and so that'll be kind of like a real big ball rolling down the hill kind of thing. This one should be easier to get the date set because it doesn't deal with classified documents. When you deal with classified documents, you have to get lawyers with classified levels of, clearance to be able to look at the documents, to be able to defend the guy about the documents. So it takes a lot longer to deal with the documents case because of the legal minutia of it.
Do you think any of them have been waiting to do all of the indictments as it gets closer to the election to kind of rail him?
Well, that's what it looks like from this federal one to me, because like I said, why did we not bring these 2 years ago? Like, it seems like we had all this evidence. We knew he tried to do all these things in the months leading up to it. I know there's been some more evidence gathering and stuff like that, but what's the change of heart from a year ago when you were like, we're not
if you have to show up
him
for trial on the same day that you're supposed to have a debate, you got to go to trial.
Right, and it'd be different if
That's so crazy.
It'd be different if in the indictment we had something like, to me, the documents one was so clear. It was like, oh my gosh, they've got him on tape saying he's got a classified document that he's not supposed to have. He's like, just like admitting, like, look at me, I'm doing an illegal thing on tape. It's so ridiculous you'd have to do it. I expected there'd be something like that on this, and there's not.
What about the Georgia thing? Where are we on that?
I'm sure that'll happen soon too, so that should be the fourth one. I think the Georgia stuff...
You think he will go to trial 4 different times for something in the next couple of years?
I think the New York stuff's going to get tossed. I just think that it would be wise to convince them to toss that. Okay. I think the DOJ or someone should pressure them to be like, you guys are either going to set it'll get caught up in appeals or whatever, and maybe that's their goal. I don't know. I think there's so many potential motivations here that it's bad. It's like,
again, and I think that's why people are just like, oh, forget it, who cares?
Right. So that's the problem. Most sane people are like tired of it.
Yeah.
His base is fired up about it because they feel like because he's being attacked, that means the left is because they're scared of him.
Yeah,
and so they've got to fight back. And so there is this weird reaction where they're like, well, he's our guy because he's being attacked by our enemy. Which is asinine because, I mean, he is such... I mean, It's so frustrating to me because I'm like, he does not care about these people. He does not care about his base at all. He would run them over with a bus if it meant something good for him.
Do you think that it's like pure narcissism?
It's absolutely pure narcissism. He cares about no one else other than him. He's incompetent. Because here's the problem. Let's just say...
But what about the people that are like, the economy was flourishing under
It
him?
was. And I will say, he did some stuff as president that I agree with. It doesn't... But he got lucky, or he outsourced it to other people. It wasn't because he did something great. And also COVID, it wasn't doing great in that last year because of COVID. Yeah. And I don't think he handled COVID very well. I really don't think he did. And which is funny because people are acting like the deep state prevented him from doing stuff. It's like, he could have fired Anthony Fauci.
Yeah, easily.
He didn't. He could have done lots of things. He could have fought the teachers unions more to keep schools in states open. He didn't. He went along with them. He just kind of went along with whatever. And the truth is, it's because he's not... His base thinks he's one of them. And he's not. He's a freaking elite a-hole from New York. He's a...
You hate him, and I love it.
I hate him. And the reason I hate him is because he's not who people think he is. It's not...
Yeah.
He does not care about them. He does not care about Republicans. He doesn't care about his base. He doesn't have any principles or policies at all, other than whatever he feels like right then.
Do you think that he's just doing it so he can have the title of, like, the leader of the free world?
I have no idea why he's running. I don't even think he really liked being president, other than he likes the freaking the charades ego of it. But I don't know why he's doing it. He just wants to be, he quote, "I want to be your retribution." No, he wants us to be his retribution.
Exactly.
He doesn't care about little people because it's all about him. This has nothing to do. His stolen election stuff is just about his ego because he can't admit that he lost. And no one has ever shown me, people are like, "Oh, well, you're a fool for just believing the lies," or whatever. It's like, that's not how this works. You have to bring me evidence that the election was stolen.
I know some people who still believe the election was stolen.
You can't make that claim and then not bring me evidence, and evidence that I can't immediately just dismiss because I'm like, that didn't happen. Here's what actually happened in that. Because there's all these things that are like,
the polls were broken.
Oh, blah blah blah, or this or that. Well, it's like all these stupid things. I'm like, you don't think it had something to do with him telling Republicans not to use mail-in voting? Like, you're an idiot. Like, again, he sabotaged himself. Like, this is.
Do you think you should have to have an ID to vote?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I mean, me too.
It doesn't have to be, like in Oklahoma here, it doesn't have to be a driver's license. It can be the voter ID card they mail you when you register to vote. Yeah. I don't see why that's a hurdle.
Yeah, but why is it
or anti, like, people are like, "Oh, you hate black people." I'm like, that's not racist. Like, they get mailed the same card I do, and they can bring it to the polls. Like, that is very simple. If you don't have a driver's license, fine. Like, but like,
what is
Social Security card they take too.
What is the left's? That's totally switching gears. But what is the left's? Like, how can they say that's racism? Because
they say everything's racism. I mean, right. That's the simple version of it. Because they're claiming that would, first of all,
hinder someone from being able to go and get.
Because like minorities might not have, like in inner city areas, might not have driver's license because they ride the bus and the train, so they don't need a driver's license. Right. But everyone needs an ID. You got to show an ID for all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah, for like everything.
And like I said, every state law is different. I think Oklahoma has very reasonable state voter ID laws. You can bring your Social Security card, your voter ID card, or any state-issued driver's license. State or federal issued.
What do we show here?
You can show your driver's license, passport, Social Security card, voter ID card, any state or federally, military ID card, anything.
I'm pretty sure when I lived in New York, I could be wrong, but when I would vote there, they would just ask me my name.
Yeah.
And that's like it.
That's it. I don't think that...
And they would have me sign.
Yeah.
But if I knew the name of other people,
if you knew the name of a dead person or someone that couldn't get out of the house or whatever. Yeah, and that does happen. Now...
Not in the millions.
There's always voter fraud. Always.
Yeah.
Some people got arrested for it in Democratic primaries in New York last elections in 2020.
Yeah.
Like, they were stuffing ballot boxes. I mean, exactly what you hear about. But, like... It didn't sway. They did get arrested. They got caught. There are always things like that. It was not to the level.
So the left would just say it's racist.
Well, because they say everything's racist because, oh, well, you're trying to disenfranchise voters. Well, I say that you're racist for assuming black people can't figure out how to bring an ID to the polls. Like, I think that's racist.
Yeah, for sure.
To be like,
or like they're incapable.
Oh,
of
they're
going...
incapable of doing. I was like, that's pretty racist to assume that a minority can't follow this. Like, you got to bring one of these 10 things that we say you can bring to the polls to prove you're who you say you are, and then we're gonna let you vote. And by the way, even if you don't have, most states have like provisions for that. Like, if you don't have your ID, they'll let you vote, put it in a separate pile, and then you have to like send something in or something. So, or like same thing if you, hey, I mailed my absentee in,
what's the whole thing
but
with
I didn't get the confirmation that it got there. They'll let you, like, at least in Oklahoma, you can vote that day. They put it in a separate file. You don't run it through the thing. And then they verify, they find your mail-in ballot because they want to make sure that only one counts. But like, you know, here, at least, like I said, I'm obviously more familiar with Oklahoma's voter stuff. But like, if you mail in a voter, like an absentee ballot or mail-in voting ballot kind of thing, there's a thing online where you can check to see if they've received it, if they've counted it. It like goes through the whole checklist.
Most people are not like you that are going to go and do that.
Right, but my point is that we have all these backup things where you can do that.
Then why have Republicans historically been up in arms, at least in the past few years, about mail-in ballots?
They're idiots. They're dumb. Most of their voters are old. Why would you not give them an easier way to vote? And that's what was so dumb about 2020 is that like Democrats definitely went too far with the COVID stuff. It was like, we'll be drive-in voting and for 2 months before the election.
So the Republicans were afraid that Democrats, if they had a mail-in ballot, would also go and do an in-person voting and they would get two votes.
No. They just think it's bad for them because they have it in their head that mail-in ballots and early voting leads to more Democrats getting votes than Republicans. And there's zero evidence that that's the case because, like I said, most of Republican voters are older. So Trump and Republicans told people not to trust mail-in voting. Don't do it. Well, I guarantee they lost some places that they would have won because they're
96-year-old.
They were told by Trump to not use mail-in vote. It's not trustworthy, and they didn't do it. And they maybe didn't get to the polls to actually vote. So, like, it's just shooting yourself in the own foot. There was zero evidence.
Do you agree that mail-in voting should be a thing?
I'm fine with it. I don't have a problem with it. Now, I do think we should rein some of it in. I think that...
Because I'm like, I go and I wait in the freaking line every election. And I'm just like, if you want to vote, you should have to go and... Like, you get time off. Like, your work has to give you time off to do it.
Yeah, but I did get caught one time where I had to go down to Dallas for a work trip. And so I didn't get a vote because I was like, last minute, I had to go out of town.
But if you're a mail-in voter, don't you have to do it like a certain time in advance?
No, you can, like, in Oklahoma at least, you can say, I want to do it for the whole year. And they'll send you mail-in ballots for every election.
I know. But say like tomorrow is a presidential election or whatever.
Yeah, you'd have to do it earlier.
Yes. I couldn't tomorrow be like, oh crap, I can't make it to the polls.
Right. You can't. So I think early voting is, I'd be fine with like a week of voting. I think we don't need more than that. I think it's foolish for us to say like, you can vote a month and a half before the election.
Yeah.
When that person could die. I mean, so much stuff could happen in a month and a half in the lead up to an election. I think early voting should not be that long. I think that we should I'm not saying we should make it harder, but I'm fine with everyone being able to vote. But it's also ridiculous because Democrats pretend like we're suppressing the vote. It goes up every year. Like 2016, 2018, 2020.
More people are voting.
More people are voting.
Yeah.
It's not, no one got this. In fact, in Georgia, where Stacey Abrams claimed she won the election.
Yeah, isn't that ironic?
Yeah. Democrats don't seem to mind people calling elections fraudulent as long as it's on their side. It's been going on since 2000.
Like
it's
Hillary
ridiculous.
did it too, right?
They did it to Bush in 2000, 2004. It always happens. And for them to pretend Trump was the first person that claimed an election was stolen. Yeah, he was the first president that did it, but it doesn't make it any better. Yeah.
There were people trying to become president.
Well, yeah, but it's just, I realize it was a different level, but it's still, but okay, in Georgia. So Stacey Abrams says, I was elected. It was just voter suppression, blah, blah, blah. They could not find, they tried to sue for those laws that Joe Biden claimed were Jim Crow 2.0, which I think is, again, like incredibly crass to pretend that a voting law, first of all, that was just dialing back what COVID had expanded. They were just clawing back some of that. It was still there were still more ways to vote than there were before COVID, after the Republicans changed what the law was. And it's easier, and there are more ways and more early than there is in New York, in Georgia. Even the Republican plan that they put that he called Jim Crow 2.0 was more accessible to voters than New York's laws, right? But they called that Jim, and they could not, when the people tried to sue for it to try to pretend like it was a civil rights thing, they could not find one voter in the state of Georgia that would claim they were disenfranchised and couldn't vote.
Wow.
They could not find anyone. So they had to drop it because to sue in court, you have to prove that someone was harmed by a law. To be able to do that. They could not they could not find one person that said I wanted to vote and I couldn't because X, Y, and Z.
That's actually shocking to me for some reason. That
right.
They didn't have any, at least people who were
right.
going to lie about it.
You're not going to lie in court. You'll go to jail for that. If you're not Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or someone elite. If you're just some Joe Blow in Georgia and you lie on the stand.
It would be hard to prove that, right?
Not really. If you said you tried to vote and they could prove that you didn't or something, it wouldn't be. I'm not lying for Stacey Abrams, who's going to throw me under the bus. Are you kidding me? For some politician? No. So the point is that this is all a big tangent to say that no, I think that it was totally fair in 2020. I'm not saying there weren't irregularities. I do think the COVID stuff went overboard in a lot of the states as far as we don't need 2 months of early access voting. We don't need it's ridiculous. I don't think voter ID laws are racist. I think assuming that minorities can't do the same things that other people do is racist.
Yeah,
I think that's
well, we do throw the racism word.
Yeah, it's just Democrats like to label everything racist. The problem is they've been doing it for decades, and then when they get someone that actually is, it's like Boy Who Cried Wolf. It's I think Trump actually is not racist in the sense that he thinks he's I don't think he actually hates black people, but he definitely thinks less of black people than he thinks of himself. But that's because he thinks of everyone.
A lot of people less than himself.
Yeah, but it's and I don't think that, and he also in 2016 sort of embraced David Duke and stuff because he thought he had to win over Republican voters. It's if you
that was a bad look.
If you embrace. Yeah. If you're okay with a racist being racist, you're okay with racism. It's morally gross. It doesn't mean you're racist, but it does mean you're okay with racism, which I think is not
kind
cool.
Of racist.
It's racist, right? It's and it also says a lot about what he thinks about Republicans. They just assumed he had to embrace a racist guy because they must all be racist. So it's just kind of it proves that he doesn't really care about these people. So all of that to be a long winding way of saying, I don't know why people keep jumping back on the train of being behind him, because when I've tried to,
Is he pulling in a lot of the Latino vote?
He did get more in 2020 than he did in 2018. Yeah. And, but that is, I think, really tricky because I think in America, we do a really bad job of demographically sorting Hispanic people because we just call them Hispanic. And it's a Cuban immigrant and a guy from Venezuela and a guy from Mexico have nothing in common, maybe other than the language they speak. And we're trying to lump all of these people who are culturally not the same into one thing. But I think that way with all races. I don't think you can lump all white people together. Yeah. It's a guy that works in Wall Street in New York City and a guy that lives in the backwoods of Alabama, because they're both white, that is the only thing they might have in common.
Yeah.
So I just think it's such a silly, it's just weird that we went from Martin Luther King being hope my kids are judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, to being let's just judge everyone by the color of their skin, and it's good.
Yeah.
It's weird to me, but I don't know why people keep going back to him. I really don't.
Do you think he has a shot at winning this thing?
No.
If it comes down to him and Biden, who wins? I know you say you hate predicting things.
Because I'm always wrong. I should start writing them down and then figure out where I'm wrong.
That's good.
I think I will. Okay, I think that...
it happens tomorrow. Tomorrow is the big election day. It's November.
Well, first, I mean, I would say...
between Biden and Trump.
Right now, I think Trump... could win the Republican nomination tomorrow, if the Republican primary was tomorrow, if nothing else changed. Keep in mind,
Do you think there's anyone out there that's gonna come in last minute, or do you think we know all of the potential suitors?
My original prediction, which I will still stick with just for the sake of being consistent, I 6 months ago said I didn't think Trump or DeSantis would be the nominees.
Okay.
I get more and more feel more correct about my DeSantis decision and not my Trump one, because he keeps gaining, and DeSantis has lost momentum since he announced.
Yeah.
He had more momentum before he announced. So I still think that could be the case, because it's not very hard to see that, like, someone wins Iowa. If the same person won Iowa and New Hampshire, you could see a lot of people fall off, and a lot can change in those first couple states. As far as if Trump lost 2 states in a row, maybe all those people that say they're backing him see the writing on the wall and they go, actually, let's back the person that's going to actually win this thing and beat Joe Biden. Because when it really boils down to it, you have all these people that claim they're independent or they're centrist or whatever. And when it comes down to if it was Joe Biden and Trump, they're just going to retreat to the color or corner that they most align with. And it's like, doesn't matter if they think, like, 70% of the country thinks that neither one of them should be the next president.
I know, but why are we going to be stuck with either one of them?
Because most of those people in that 70% don't vote in the primaries. And
the primaries are so important.
Yeah, but I hate primaries because of that. Because we shouldn't have a primary system.
Oh, hot take.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think
it
should
about
be?
This for forever. I would go back to smoke-filled rooms or whatever you have to do at this point.
Wait, what?
Like, parties used to just pick the nominees. There was not. We didn't have primaries until 50 years ago.
But then who's in charge of the party?
The party, the Republican National Convention or whatever. I mean, they're the ones that go, they would court people and be like, we would like you to run for your state legislator or whatever. I mean, they would do this throughout the country, and they still do some of that until they brought the primaries in the 70s. I think it was the 70s. It might have been the late 60s. I don't think I knew
the primaries was like a newer thing.
Yes, it's a newer thing. We did not used to have primaries. 100 years ago, we didn't have the internet. Or even, so, like, there was a bit of like, okay, we're going to pick the candidate that we think is the right for whatever our platform is. It gave the parties control over being like, keep in mind, 2016, we have Bernie Sanders, not a real Democrat. He doesn't claim to be, he caucuses with the Democrat, but he's an independent who doesn't like the Democrats, who almost got the nomination in 2016. And Trump, who was not a Republican 6 years before that, getting the Republican nomination. If those people tried to run 100 years ago, the parties would not have let them even sniff it. They'd be like, you don't stand for any of the things we do.
Why are the parties saying, yes, we're going to let it be Donald Trump and Joe Biden?
They don't have any control over it now. They've no control over it. They've let the kind of toothpaste out of the tube, and they can't get it back in because How would they get it back in? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think that, like, ranked choice voting is a way that people are thinking they can do it, where it's like, okay, pick your first thing and your second one, and it's a little bit more like, instead of having to have runoffs, or it kind of like it. Alaska did it, and it seems to have done what people thought it would do, where it like didn't pick the extreme candidates, because almost no one, the only people that put them at the top of their ballot are the extreme people that are like in a very small minority. We're talking about like probably 8 to 10% of the voting primary things that are driving all of this politics. Like,
that's so fascinating to me. I did not know this.
Yeah, so like,
the Republicans can't just be like, okay, Donald Trump sucks. We want.
They could if they wanted to.
Why would that not be success? Why would that not be successful?
I think right now people would claim like democracy as being, but because
most
people don't. Again, not to like, but like, you know, the primaries are not a constitutionally protected voting thing. That's just the primary. That's the Republican Party has said, if you register as a Republican in this state, you can vote in the Republican primary.
Yes, but even if I was a Democrat right now, I'd be like, come on, guys, let's all collectively get someone else better than this dude.
Yeah, so there's.
And you would think that they would want that because he is hated.
Yeah, and we could talk about this probably for forever. We could probably talk about this for a whole episode. But really, the problem
why
is
not just like pick all collectively someone better and then run him out of there and then have like an actual good candidate to run for the Democrats?
Because the parties are not in charge of this anymore. I mean, they are in charge, but they're not. They don't have any of the control. Because now the control for
who has the control?
PACs and single interest groups. So the problem is that there's two problems. One, we had primaries, and it started getting where we were moving more ideologically to the left on one side and to the right on the other. Because in those primaries, they're low turnout. So you're talking about, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would assume it's like less than 30% of the people vote in the primary than do in the general.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with a really small subset of the population who are probably too in tune to stuff and are super like line in the sand. Here's my position. And the problem is the people that are with all the money because of campaign finance reform, we stopped letting people donate unlimited amounts of money to parties. The people that have all the money are like the NRA, Planned Parenthood, single issue groups of people that only care about one thing. So like the NRA only cares about Second Amendment stuff. They do not really care about any of the rest of the stuff because that's what their members care about. And Planned Parenthood only cares about access to abortion. Like that's all they care about.
Yeah.
They don't. So you basically have to cater to those groups to get elected now. And
so you think like the Planned
are
Parenthoods of the world are like Joe Biden's our guy?
No, I think that the Democrats are just, Joe Biden's a different story. It's weird to have an incumbent president that's that old. And
do you think it's because he's old or just people just genuinely dislike and he's not smart?
I think
I think even if he was younger, people would be like, get this guy the H out of here.
But I think the age thing is specifically the thing that really is scary for people now because they're like, yeah, I think they already kind of...
See, to me, it's not his age. It's just like...
I don't think he could have beat anyone other than Trump in a general election. I think you take any other generic Republican and they could have beat him in 2020. But he thinks he's the only person that can beat Trump. I don't think that's true. I think
Do you think
Trump's
he
the only
can beat
people
Trump? Oh, yeah, that was the original question.
That was the original question. So if Trump... Okay, I think Trump could get the nomination right now for the Republican Party. And so then if the election was... If nothing changed majorly between the two of them, no, I don't think...
You think Biden would win again?
Yeah, because I don't think... Who has Trump added to his coalition? Who's
you
become...
even yourself said that he's getting more people. The more indictments he gets, he
gets higher in the polls in the Republican primary, but that doesn't mean that he's not doing well in the states that he needs to win. If you look at those polls, he's not adding anyone to the coalition. He lost in 2020. And now Joe Biden could lose people between now and then. Because if Joe Biden fell and hit his head, this is not a stretch. The last time I talked about this on the podcast, he fell the next day.
Yes.
And Joe Biden, either one of those guys could die of a heart attack tomorrow or have a heart attack or...
Yeah, I mean, Trump's no spring chicken.
No, he's old and fat and...
Yeah.
He looks much older than he did 2 years ago. Like, I think Trump is mentally more there than Biden is as far as like just generic faculties. I think he's also insane. I think they're both liars. I think they're both terrible. I wish, honestly, they'd both just go away. Honestly, at this point, I don't care. I mean, it sounds terrible, but it would be a great thing if they had health scares. I'm not saying I hope they die.
Yeah.
But like if they both had major health scares where we kind of woke up.
Who would take the place of Biden in that situation?
Well, I mean, who
can't
knows?
Be Kamala.
It's not. I mean, no one thinks it's Kamala Harris because no one likes her. But you play stupid games like
you win stupid prizes.
And the stupid game that he played is hey, well, I'm gonna have a black female vice president. Well, you can't back yourself out of that now because now you're gonna look. Yeah. People are going to call you racist if you fire her or pick someone else. And the truth is she's just bad at the job. Like she's not gotten any nothing better. To do with it. Yeah, she's not gotten any better. Her staff clearly doesn't like her. Like she's a mess. They won't send her anywhere. Like she's not.
Do you think she thinks she's doing a good job?
I'm sure she does. But
her Twitter feed is like,
I don't
very
pay attention.
Glorifying.
No, I don't think it could be her. People think Gavin Newsom. I think that'd be pretty silly to pick the guy from California. I don't think California's going to win for the amount of people that have left California over the last couple of years to move to Florida or Texas. Yeah. I don't think that
California's a show.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, who wants to have that become our country?
But people think him. I mean, some people say Pete Buttigieg, which is ridiculous. The guy was a mayor of a small town. He's not even handled the transportation secretary stuff very well. We've had a bunch of major transportation problems. The whole FAA system went down for the air traffic control stuff, and we really don't have more train derailments than normal. It's just like it's one of those things that one happens and then they all start showing up on the news. But really, those happen fairly often. It's kind of not like as often as, it's still way safer than semi trucks, like statistically. But he's not. I don't know who the Democrats have. I think that's the problem. If they had some
they have
clear.
No one else.
But what's so stupid on the Republican side is that we've got all these people in the primary, all of which.
Are you still a South Carolina guy? Tim's?
I like Tim Scott a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think he really has a chance. I would love if people started paying attention to him and something. And I really, most of the people, other than Vivek Ramaswamy, who everyone loves, but I just think is not serious. I think he just wants the 8 p.m. slot on Fox News or something. I don't think he actually thinks he's going to be president. But everyone else has been like a good governor, or has a record of being like, I think they'd be a reasonable president. But none of them are doing very good at campaigning, in my opinion. DeSantis has had a couple of good things lately, but for the most part,
no. People hate what he's doing right now in the state of Florida.
Well, I'm saying he's actually like he fired some campaign staff. He's actually talking to media. Like he had all these stupid things in his campaign that he wasn't doing, that we were like, you have to talk to the media.
Do you think Trump will debate?
I have no idea. I mean, I think he's such a pansy. No, I don't think he will. I think he thinks he's tough. He's not. There's no logic, because people are like, we need Trump. He's a fighter. I'm like, okay, but he won't go debate other Republicans. He's not really, if he won't even fight the people in the Republican primary, what do you think he's going to do? Like every argument for Trump, you can immediately dismantle with like 1 point. It'd be like, oh, well, he wins. Well, except that he lost in 2020, 2022, 2018.
Every big person he backed this past election cycle.
Everyone but JD Vance lost. Yeah. Every Trumper, every election denier lost. It's like, okay, at some point this isn't a conspiracy, and like he's a loser. Like he just loses. And then okay, look at this recent stuff. You either have to claim, going back to the indictment stuff, just to maybe end here. Okay, so going back to the indictment stuff, he either believed that the election was stolen from him based on no evidence, based on everyone around him telling him, including the very smart people he hired, who everyone defended when he hired him. Trump will hire the best people. That's why he's going to be a good president. This was the argument in 2016. Yeah. He hires people like Bill Barr and John Bolton and all these people that are actually pretty good hires, because there were some people going like, we'll be the adults in the room. Yeah. When they all tell him what he doesn't like, he fires them. So they were either the best people or they weren't, because now the excuse would be like, well, they all ended up being traitors and blah blah blah. And okay, if that's the case, then he's not good at hiring the best people, because he hired a bunch of idiots. Right. So it's like he's either incompetent or he's a genius, but he can't be both at the same time. Either they were good hires or they weren't. And so he either believed that the election was stolen from him, which makes him an idiot and a lunatic, because there's no evidence to support that. So that's the person you want running anything. What makes you, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. And then you go to the, sorry, I'm like rambling now. You go to the document stuff. He either is incompetent, because you look at the stuff where it's like, he was texting these guys and telling his aide to go like take these boxes and move them. And it's like, it's a freaking, I saw some article that compared it to like all the dumb duos of criminals, and like Horace and and Jasper from 101 Dalmatians. Like, who are these? Like, he can't even competently like cover up his criminal activity. Yeah. So he's either, so I buy that he's incompetent. The only reason anything good happened during the Trump administration is because he did hire someone and he didn't care about it, and he didn't step on their toes. You know what I mean? Like, any kind of win was because he didn't care about that issue, gave it to someone else to do. You think? I don't think the president controls the economy. Ooh. I think that it's silly to give them credit when it's good, and it's, now, sometimes there are direct correlations, like Joe Biden,
I was about to say,
pumping a bunch of stimulus money unnecessarily into the economy hurt the economy. Like, that's a direct, like, inflationary situation that like they caused. But for the most part, there aren't levers that are being pulled like that by the president of the United States. It's just too complicated. And if that's the case, then why doesn't Trump get, if Joe Biden's stimulus was bad, why was Trump's? I think both of them were. I think Trump's was more necessary, Trump's first one, but Trump's second one was not necessary. And I think he had two. I might be wrong about that. But the point is, it was all inflationary. Some of it was necessary, some of it wasn't. Most of it was wasted.
Yeah.
It's something like 20% of the PPE stuff
Yeah.
was waste and fraud. They think it was fraud. It's like something like $800 billion. It's not a small number. And so there are things that the president can do that can negatively affect the economy, but I don't think they can, like gas prices are the same thing. When people brag about gas prices, it's like, you have nothing to do with that. You have unless you're like, hey, we're going to make a policy that makes like drilling so that we're energy independent. Yeah, that can trickle down, but that's not going to like come to the pump like next month.
Yeah.
Like that's not a, so I think that Trump's good economy was mostly
situational.
Mostly situational. I think that.
Then what do you think he did well then?
Well, I mean, I think that he did do some right things on the economy, but I think any other Republican would have done the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Like his tax cuts were, people are like, Paul Ryan's a rhino. I'm like, those are Paul Ryan's tax cuts.
Yeah.
Like any other Republican that would have won in 2016 would have potentially done the exact same package of tax cuts. So my point is, he's just the same as any other Republican that would have been in there for the most part. Now, I mean, he had some stuff that I think was good foreign policy wise, which is weird, but again, I think it was the stuff they didn't care about. The truth is, we were tougher on Russia during Trump's years than during Obama's years. You wouldn't know that because Trump was so cozy and like praising of Vladimir Putin because he wants to be a dictator. But the truth is, like, the administration and White House and stuff were actually, there were more tariffs and things like that, and so it's a weird, complicated thing. But I just don't think he would be.
Do you think Biden's an idiot for continually giving billions to Ukraine?
Well, Ukraine's a whole different thing, too. No, I don't think so. I think Biden's an idiot for not giving it sooner.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hot take.
It's not really a hot take. It's just like basic principles. They say they need stuff, and then he drags his feet for 6 months and gives it to him like 6 months later. He says he's not going to do it, but then it's too late. Like
Hold on. Why do you think that he is supposed to give it to him at all?
Because I think that Russia invaded a country, and if it's one step away from, Russia's not going to stop in Ukraine. Like, anyone that thinks that they're just going to like stop there.
So do you think this is just going to be a never-ending story? Like, we will just continually fund the efforts in Ukraine?
No, I think there should.
I think there should be an inflationary environment.
You got to keep in mind the numbers too. We have spent $40 billion total so far in Ukraine. People stole $800 billion in PPE money.
Yes.
It's
just like
not
monopoly money.
I know, but when people Tucker Carlson is the worst about this right now. He's pretending like, look at what's going on here. We've got homeless people. We've got all this. The United States does a lot of things. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. Like, the $40 billion that's gone to Ukraine is not going to solve any of the problems that we're talking about here at home. Like, at all. That's just like nothing. I know that sounds ridiculous to say $40 billion is nothing, but like,
yes,
you can understand, like, they spent $4 trillion or $4 to $6 trillion during COVID. Trillion. That is
like, I don't even like. What does that mean?
There are 1,000 billions in a trillion.
Oh my gosh.
So my point is, like, the spending problem is everywhere else other than Ukraine. Ukraine is not a spending problem. It's not. It's a 1% of the military budget, or 2% or something like that. It's very small. You know, they just passed, I think, an $800 billion. I think that's the DoD's budget for military spending or something. So it's a small percentage. And the point is, we're spending that on other. It's like, to me, it's so clearly an allegory for China and Taiwan too. That if we just roll over in Ukraine, China's going to invade Taiwan, like, immediately.
Oh, so that's why you think we should.
That's
more your reason.
If for no other reason, but I also think because Ukraine got invaded by. I mean, would anyone not defend another country that Russia did that to? If Russia invaded England, would we back England?
Yes.
Yeah, we would. Some people are like, oh, well, but they're not NATO. But so what? Like, they're like right next to Poland, and like this exact thing happened.
Do you think
in World
it'll
War
ever
II.
end?
I think that.
Unless
I think if we
Ukraine
did
surrenders, or
I think if we did what Ukraine asked us to when they asked us to, they might be further along at pushing Russia back than they are currently, and they've done a pretty good job so far.
What did they ask us to that we didn't do?
They wanted access to fighter jets earlier. They wanted the air defense stuff that we dragged our feet on. They wanted the cluster bombs, which everyone's up in arms about too. But keep in mind, they're asking for this stuff, and
Are they asking other countries?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And a lot of this is like us giving money for another country to give them stuff. We're not actually directly giving them
Like our
planes.
jets.
It's like
Yeah.
Poland is giving them planes, but we're giving them the money to buy the planes from Poland or whatever. And so I don't have all the details
What a
of this
mess.
exactly. It's a mess, but it's like when people reduce it down to like, oh, well,
If we didn't give money to Ukraine,
if we didn't
we'd
give
be
money to
okay.
Ukraine, our economic problems would be solved. That's just not, the numbers just don't add up to that. No, I don't think Joe Biden's done really anything well for the last couple years. I think Afghanistan was a nightmare. I think he lies constantly. I think all the student loan debt forgiveness stuff is a sham of like, he's literally just trying to give it's a giveaway to his voting base.
Yeah.
It's no different than Trump pandering to his base. It is, and it's grosser because he's making other voters pay for it. I mean, it's really, the student loan stuff absolutely infuriates me.
It will not happen.
Well, I mean, he just keeps trying to work around it. I mean, just like, let's just find another legal loophole. I think he's been a worse president than I thought he would be. I thought he would come in there and be kind of normal.
That student loan forgiveness should be a thing?
No, absolutely not. I think it's...
Yeah, me too. I'm just wondering.
I think if you wanted to economically, like, it'd be more fair and more directly affecting the people that they claim are the victims of student loan forgiveness who need it, like by doing car loan forgiveness. That would be a more fair thing to do.
Why?
Because lots of people have car loans, and mostly definitely poor people do. And his argument for student loan stuff is that first of all, 2/3 of the country never went to college.
Yeah. Which is not fair for the taxpayer.
And then most of those people that went to college just paid their debts. So you're talking, I think I did the math on it. I'm going to forget, but it is like, you're asking, I think you're basically asking 92% of the country to pay for 8% of people's loans.
Do you think he did it just because he would get voters?
Yes, absolutely. It's his voting base.
Yeah.
That votes for that. It's college educated elites. And that's the thing, is most of these people that have the debt are like, have master's degrees.
I know.
This is not
like feminine studies.
This is not, and it doesn't matter what it's in. Some of them are doctors and lawyers. A lot of them are probably White House staffers. It's like, it's gross. It's really gross. You're literally pitting, it's such an elitist bullcrap thing because it's mostly rich white people and lawyers and doctors and things like that just haven't paid their loans back. It is not like, yes, you can find a story here and there about but we already have forgiveness programs for people that like go to school and have some sort of like terrible thing happen in their life and they have to quit school. And like, we have forgiveness stuff for those kind of things. It's a case by case basis. And we do that.
Yeah. It just would not be fair to lump some.
No, you just can't lump all this stuff together. I think Biden's been a terrible president. And I don't most Democrats aren't even pleased with where he's at, which is why most of them don't want him to be the nominee. But
they don't have
until someone steps up, I think all this is going to be a real mess because you're going to be dealing with trials and indictments with Trump.
Ooh, it's exciting.
You're going to be dealing with, Joe Biden could literally, either one of these guys could have a health scare or die. This is not an exaggeration. Like, Biden
How old is he now?
Biden's 80.
Yeah.
He's asking us to trust that he can be 86. And you look at the decline over the last 10 years.
What's the oldest president before him?
He is the oldest.
Well, I know, but like before him.
I don't know. Reagan, probably in his second term.
Yeah.
I think was in his late 70s. But there's a good point of like, there's a guy that ends up with like Alzheimer's, I think, or dementia of some sort. You're flirting with having a president of the United States that might not. I think the claims that Reagan was that in his second term are not factually honest.
I didn't know people claimed that.
There are people that claim that he was like not making any decisions. I don't think there's any real proof that was the case and that he was like slipping mentally more than like a normal president. It's an aging process to be the president.
I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
No, I probably wouldn't either. But I really, it's hard to make a straight line projection because I just don't know that. I don't believe nothing crazy will happen between now and November of next year. I think that it would take one more fall, like a worse fall for Biden.
But he's never really gotten hurt from a fall.
Right, but Mitch McConnell Have you seen him lately?
was
After that fall,
so
it's really sad. And like, it's one of
It
those.
was so sad. It would make me sad. It makes me sad anytime Biden falls too.
Right. It makes me sad too.
Yeah.
This is not me like laughing at Biden. This is me like going, I don't think that guy should be in charge of the executive branch of the United States. I don't think he should have the nuclear codes. I don't think that that guy can be making decisions that are life and death for people. And that's what we're flirting with. And like Mitch McConnell's another great one. It's like he had that fall and he just goes blank at that press conference the other day. And the Babylon Bee had the best little thing. It was like family trying to decide to put their
or run
their
for
dad
Senate or
in hospice or have him run for Senate.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is kind of like, guys, we gotta like. But here's the thing: Mitch McConnell is not he's not launching nuclear weapons, or he's not getting called in at 2 a.m. because something escalates in somewhere else in the world. Like, that's not Mitch McConnell's job. He's one of 100 guys in the Senate.
Don't you think that like the head military guys and men and women, whatever, if you're like the head of your branch of military, don't you think you're also giving advice on those opinions? It's not just like Trump or Biden gets to make all those decisions. Don't they come in there and like... Of
course, that's the point of hiring good people or surrounding yourself with people that are good at their jobs.
I will tell you that I don't think you should do this or whatever.
Right. Absolutely, that's what's happening. It's not like they just hand them a pack. Now, to go back to Trump, because I have to, because this was so good. Someone testified, I think, I remember they testified or just put it in the paper. I'm going to get the sources wrong on this, but they basically said that like the people that prepared the reports for Trump, like, so you're at intelligence, CIA, whatever kind of thing, and you've got to do these briefings, because they get like daily briefings on security stuff. They would have to dumb it down so much for him because he wouldn't read them. So instead of like giving the details, and it would be like, well, this guy, I mean, it was like they literally had to just dumb it down so much for him because he's such an idiot and he doesn't care. So he doesn't care about the job. And like, what really bothers me is that you've got like...
Do you think Obama cared about the job?
Yeah, I do. But I don't think he was particularly great at it. I think he was a bit of an egomaniac too. And I think he thought that he could just waltz in there and do it well. And I think it's a much harder job than people think it is, especially for senators that didn't come from like running a state. I think for governors, it's a little easier because you come in and like I've done this at a smaller scale.
In your lifetime, who would you choose to go back into presidency?
Like that's been a president?
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is going to sound really weird. I think that for the first half of my life before I could vote, most of those presidents were good at the job. So Reagan, Bush, Clinton. I think Clinton was good at being the president as far as he would see people want welfare reform. I'm going to back it because that's what people want. I want to get reelected. He's
lousy man.
Yeah, he's a terrible person. I think he's a terrible person. I think he's fairly corrupt, and I think that his sexual stuff is gross. And I think it was gross then, and it's only been proven more gross post Me Too stuff. But I think he was good. I don't agree with a lot of his policy stuff or the things he did, but I think he was good at the job. Like, he's a good politician. He was good at reading the room. He was good at, like, forming coalitions. He was good at that stuff. When Republicans controlled Congress, he knew, I've got to work with them.
Yeah.
I can't just fight them on everything. So we got to work with each other. Like, he did the job well. And I think George W. did well, too. I think that he had crazy circumstances. I mean, post 9/11 was just completely derailed everything he wanted to do. So you had to completely change focus. I think Iraq was a mistake, but I don't think that I don't think it was because someone like lied. I think it was, we had bad intelligence. So did the rest of the world. We all thought Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. We were wrong. And maybe in hindsight, we wouldn't have. I think he'd probably even say that. He had a great, like, in a speech, he accidentally was talking about Ukraine and said Iraq. And he was like, this, like, illegal invasion of Iraq. And then he caught himself, said Ukraine. He goes, well, but... I mean, he was kind of... It was pretty funny. I love
him. That's why I want to have
It was pretty funny. He clearly, like... I don't know. I think Bush is a good guy. Like, I think that he wanted to make the right decision, and he surrounded himself with really smart people. I think that most of his staff was great. I think Condoleezza Rice was great. I think...
would she
Colin
ever,
Powell,
would she ever run?
No, I don't think so, because I think she's not crazy. I think she'd be great.
Would Colin Powell ever run?
No, I don't think. I think Colin Powell specifically. I think they wanted him to run in the 90s, and his wife just absolutely would not
Yeah.
go along with it. She was like, "You'll get assassinated." She was just scared to death that like the first black president would get shot. And so he was like, "I won't do it. If my wife doesn't want me to do it, I'm not going to do it." Which I think is wise.
Good for him.
But yeah, I think all of those people were pretty good. I think Obama was not a good president. I think like objectively he wasn't good at the job. Not just that I didn't agree with his policies. I just think that he wasn't good at working with people. He just thought, he could throw his weight around. And I just don't think it worked. I mean, he got Obamacare basically, and then everything else was just fighting. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it set a good. And I think it created I think Obama's presidency did create some of the. I don't think it was all him, but it created the environment to make Trump happen. Trump doesn't happen without like the 2008 financial crisis and Obama's presidency. And some of that is garbage. I mean, like Trump embracing the birther stuff and all that kind of stuff is just also nonsense, as far as him not being born in the U.S. or whatever. I mean, it's just like,
so stupid.
To me, it's stupid. And there's definitely some racist stuff in there, but I think that you can say Obama wasn't a good president without being racist. Mm-hmm. I think it's not everything to do with that, but I do think it created the right formula for Trump to come along. And then I think Trump was bad and I think Biden's bad. I think both of them have been, but I also think that it's a different job than it was in the 90s. It's not the same thing.
And we have different extremes.
Right. And we think because the president now promises to do things that they can't do, you've got all this illegal crap going on where it's like these executive orders and getting struck down by the courts are, if anything can save us, it's going to be the courts. And by the courts, I mean all of them, because with the Trump indictment stuff, it's going to be judges that go, hey,
how is a judge going to be non-biased though?
I think judges are very good at not being biased. I think that they've traditionally
But isn't it like the guy who's been appointed to...
Well, yeah, but like one of them's appointed by him and one of the judges is appointed by... So like...
Yeah.
Here's the problem. Here's what I really hate about it is that both sides right now are hinging, oh, well, he might get off because he's got a judge that he appointed or a judge that was appointed by a Republican. I think that's wrong for Democrats to do, to pretend that like the court is not legitimate because someone was appointed by a Republican, and Republicans are doing the same thing. They're saying, well, if it was appointed by a Democrat, then we can't trust that they're going to, first of all, it's not the judge. The judge is going to set some rules and stuff, but the judge doesn't decide the case. A jury does. You need one person on a jury to say, I don't think that this,
who gets to be a jury in a federal case?
Well, I mean, they do federal jury polls, just like they do.
Would you ever want to do that?
Oh, I would love to be on a jury, but I've only been called one time for a state thing, and
well, definitely not now.
Well, I mean, I just don't think it'll ever happen. I think that I'd have to play dumb, like I didn't care about this stuff. I would love to be on a jury because I think it's like.
But everyone on a jury is going to have
a.
I know, but anyone that's like appointed to a like a federal jury is going to have biases.
Well, and the real problem is that if it's a DC federal jury, it's like you're talking about a place where 96% of the people in that district voted for Biden or whatever.
Right.
So it does seem like that's going to be a problem, and Republicans are already claiming you can't have a DC jury because like how
they
would
need
that
to go to like a
fair?
purple state.
Yeah, but like how you can't. I think that's kind of foolish too, because like. Again, it's the prosecution's job to convince 12 people, and they have to be unanimous, that they're guilty. And to me, there's going to be a high bar with this second one.
Oh, God. I just feel like those guys are going to have that.
But here's the reason I think the courts could be the saving thing here, is because if judges are good and do their job and go basically hammer both sides evenly. Like, I think that there are some DOJ stuff that need to get called out. Mm-hmm. And I think they will by a judge to be like, I'm not letting that be admitted. I'm not, all that kind of stuff. And I think that most judges take their jobs very seriously. I'm not saying there aren't bad ones, but they take their jobs really seriously. I don't think they're partisan like everyone thinks they are, including the Supreme Court. It's really funny how everyone's like, oh, it's Trump's court, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, they've ruled against some of his policies. So it's clearly not the case. I'm really tired of the delegitimization of courts just because it's like we don't like the outcome, so I'm going to say, well, it's because that guy's corrupt or whatever, which there's just no evidence again for. So I think the courts are going to have to be the savior here, because they're going to be the people that decide how all this stuff goes forward with Trump. They're going to be the people that decide. They were the people that decided all the cases that Trump brought, and they threw them out and stuff, going, hey, there's nothing here. They also decided stuff like in Georgia where they let, like voting laws that were getting attacked by Democrats, and they were like, you've got no standing here, So I think that it's kind of the one branch that's still doing their job, which makes me not want to politicize it, because
good.
I think that's the one. But I don't, it's going to be chaos for the next year and a half, because
buckle up.
If his trial's in the middle of the primary,
oh my goodness.
And then the other thing is like, what's the end game?
Which trial?
What's the end game if they try to delay these, and some people think he just wants to be president so he can pardon himself, which no one's ever known if that happened. Or what if he wins? I mean, there's so many scenarios. What if he wins, tries to fire anyone that disagrees with him, but then the Senate says, well, we're not going to confirm any of your crazy people that you're trying to hire in cabinet positions, because that's what he's claiming he's going to do, is just go in there and just like fire everyone and hire his own people for it. But the Senate gets a say in that. Of course he can. I mean, if it's in the executive branch.
The Senate gets a say in who he hires?
For cabinet positions, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, if he tries to hire Sidney Powell or Rudy Giuliani, they're not going to confirm him. I mean, even a Republican Senate would not confirm some of these crazy people. So, I mean, it's going to be a real mess. And I don't see, and to me, Republicans they got themselves into it. They could have gotten rid of Trump a long time ago if people just had the balls to stand up and say, he's a liar and a narcissist, and he's bad at his job, and he's a moron, and all that stuff. They just would have said all that stuff. We could maybe be done with him, maybe not, but like at least you'd have the integrity of having said so. But people won't, and so they're stuck with him. Like, but no one wants. I mean, every publication I read is like, yeah, anonymously, every congressperson wants him to be gone, but they won't say it publicly because they'll get annihilated in primaries, or they'll lose their job. But that's not courage. It's not. So it's going to be a mess, is the short version of the long story.
Can't wait to follow along.
I know. All right. Thank you to Kelley for coming on. Appreciate her coming now, being a 2-time guest in only a handful of episodes. But we're good friends. I like talking politics with her. Hopefully you enjoy it as well. Be sure to check out, the comment section on YouTube. That's kind of where we're going to have discussions about this stuff. If you disagree about something, it's fine. It's good to disagree. That's okay. And you can also do Instagram and Facebook and all those things. It's all at The Homeless Conservative. Feel free to chime in, ask questions, argue with me, say you want to be on the show, whatever you want to do. Happy to have these discussions. I think the big problem with politics is that we're not having these friendly discussions, and we're just retreating to our own little quarters. And so I want to facilitate those conversations. So join in, follow on those things, and we'll see you on the next episode.